now that I'm all topped off and prepped, I'm gonna start by making the base of my arrangement. And to do this, I'm gonna use the blueberry that I have over here. It has a really nice shape, and like I said, the foliage is really nice because there's a nice color variation in it. Cool. So what I'm gonna do is just sort of clean it up a little bit. So any leaves that have sort of broken off or that look dead, also just thin it out a little bit too. When you're starting your base structure, you don't want anything that is too cumbersome because then that's going to limit the amount of product that you can actually put into your arrangement. It's going to make it look really heavy. And the whole aesthetic that we're going for is something that's really light and loose and romantic and airy. So really try to find pieces that have a really pretty shape to them. For this class, with my Lazy Susan, what I'm going to do is create it, and then I'll rotate it so you can see it as I'm making it. So what I'm going to do is really start by angling pieces in, and I'm going to start creating my base shape. And while I'm doing this, I'm really setting the parameters that I'm going to work within as I'm arranging. And this is when I'm going to start to get a slight spill and also create my height. So for this arrangement, I'm going to stick to a nice crescent shape, and I'm going to create a balanced asymmetry with my arrangement. So I'm going to have a high point, I'm going to have a low point, but I'm going to be balanced evenly on both sides, and then towards the end I'm really going to maybe spill out on one side. So it's going to feel balanced, but it's also going to feel wild, asymmetrical, and organic. Another thing to think about when you're putting stuff in, any little node or piece that sticks out, you really want to shave that off. Because if you put something in, then you're not happy with it further down the line, one little piece could get caught on your chicken wire structure and pull the whole thing apart. So it's nice to just have nice smooth stems as you're arranging. So I'm really just going to start popping some pieces into this. Okay. Okay, I'm just going to tuck a few more pieces in, and then I'll rotate it for you. Okay, so now you can see that I've created just a really simple base structure. I have my high point here, I have a lower point down here. So as you can see, I have this negative space here, and throughout the process of making this arrangement, I'm going to try to keep that. That could be a really nice way to highlight something really, really delicate and pretty, sort of frame it towards the end of your arrangement, or even just to keep it as is, just to have this sort of wild, loose, organic feel. There's a lot of negative space in nature, so really think about that. Think about what you do see in nature, whether it's concentrations or this, this airiness when you're arranging. One thing that you might find, especially using something heavy like this blueberry, the fruit sort of weighs it down, is that your stems might and probably will fall around a little bit. That all changes as you add more stems. So if your branches tend to shift a little bit, just pop them back up in place, and as you add more stems, you're going to start creating more structural stability in your arrangement, like this. So just pop it back up, and as you add more, it's just going to stay in place. So just something to think about. Don't stress out if your branches are falling all over and you can't really get it to stay. So now that I have my base structure, I'm going to start adding in filler flowers. And I'm actually going to start with adding a few of these garden roses. And as I arrange, I'm going to work with the shape that I've already created. But I'm also going to arrange in a way to where I have concentration of color in certain areas. So these roses, I'm probably just going to stick to maybe this bottom half on the left. And I'm going to vary length stem length, just so that not everything is on the same plane. Depth is really, really, really important to think about when arranging. You don't want something that's flat, you want something that feels immersive, like you're really in it, like you're experiencing it. And to do that, you're gonna have to cut some stems really low, which you might not be intimidated to do. But it also allows you to have this moment that you sort of peek into your arrangement. So it's like this sort of specialty that you don't see on the outside, but you're really looking into. And then we're gonna cut some other stems a little bit longer. And remember, fresh cut right before you put it into water every time. And just like in nature, instead of having everything sprinkled throughout evenly, we're really gonna do things in concentration. So this will be my first concentration that I'm working with, is this little patch of roses here. This is gonna be a nice canvas for us to pop other things off of, but it just becomes a really nice base for us. And I'm also thinking about covering up my chicken wire structure as I work, so I'm not trying to cover it up as when my entire arrangement's done. It just makes my life a little bit easier towards the end. Now I'm going to jump into another sort of filler that I have, and this is sweet pea. This sweet pea I'm actually going to use, this is the only thing that I'm probably going to use throughout as something that I'm going to evenly disperse. And I'm just going to really tuck this in, but just like I did with the roses, I'm going to vary stem length so that I'm not working completely on the same plane, and I'm really filling in my base structure. So right now I'm starting to work in the front on one side, but I'll show you as I start finishing up one side how I rotate it and how we're gonna start transitioning to really work 360 and how to utilize this Lazy Susan. Cool. So as you can see, the sweet pea I'll sort of fill in throughout. This becomes a really nice filler base as well. Especially when I start bringing in darker flowers, it's really gonna pop off of this sort of neutral light base that I have. So now that I have this really nice base filler, I'm gonna start bringing in some of my specialty flowers. So something that I'm really inspired by is old Flemish Dutch paintings. And in a lot of those paintings, they have a lot of really big, heavy flowers, sort of the top of their arrangements, and then everything seems to sort of unfurl and fall apart from the top. So if you want that look, which I'm gonna sort of try to achieve in this arrangement, use something really tall and beautiful towards the top of your arrangement to also really highlight your high point. Cool. And like I said, things will fall apart a little bit. You just have to really work with them. And then, working in concentrations, I'll put these right next to each other, just different stem lengths. And this now is going to allow me to start building one side of my arrangement that's going to be a little bit darker than the other sides. So I'll probably have a dark moment over here, and then really fade into something light and delicate over here on the other side. And I'll even tuck something in back here towards the back to really carry it throughout. Great. As I go, I'm seeing that maybe this is a little heavy, so I'm just going to keep sort of thinning out my grains if I want to be able to peek through to really see other flowers that are behind it. So now that I have my color transition figured out, I have my light side, I have my dark side, now I'm going to start coming in with pieces that really incorporate all of the colors together. And that's going to be this peony right here. Have the nodes get in. In this piece specifically, I love how it sort of grows up. Don't be afraid to really have your flowers face different directions. Instead of having everything facing forward on one plane, have it face up. You know, really play with how the flower actually moves naturally, how you want it to look like it would be in the wild. Great. And then we have one more. It's nice to work in threes. Odd numbers are great. Vary this stem length. And now you can see that the color is really pulling your dark side into your light side. This is really key here. Really working with flowers that have a lot of variation in it. That's what's going to pull your whole arrangement together.